So in this video we are going to be generating the remainder of this part of the project, which we're going to render out and import our image sequence and export again. So I'm just going to open up Premiere Pro, which is the software we're going to just compile the files in. So while that's loading, you may see that jump appear on the screen, which will be a bit irritating initially, but obviously once it's loaded it'll be fine. Just saves us waiting around later on. So with the camera set and the tracking set, I'm happy with that. The next stage is to export the video. So across here we've got our render settings, okay, our different ones. So this brings up the render view, which we've had from before, and you can sort of see that light change. It's really cool. We have our take a shot of the render via the viewport, the camera that's active. We have the render view, and then we can select one area to render, and it will just calculate that section. So if you're currently changing something within a scene and you don't want to re-render the whole thing, because obviously that can, once you've got a really complex scene, that can take a long time. We will, like I said with Cast 2, 99 hours to render a frame. It allows you just to focus on one particular section, one particular change, and without re-rendering the whole thing. Finally, we have this box with a little cog, and that is our render settings. Okay, so within our render settings, if we drop down the arrow, we have different renderers that do very different things, which I want you to find out about and explore. Those of you in your groups would have done that already. We can set our file name prefix. Okay, so this could be so our name might be so your character name, so in this case Buddy 360 turnaround, and always end with an underscore, because if we and don't use numbers as the last sort of word, because that can confuse the render output when it renders out each single frame. If you have a number there, it will put that there, and it can change the order of the files, and when we import them into Premiere, that can cause issues. So we're going to change our file type to JPEG. Okay, we're not going to use AVI because it can cause problems, and in fact actually we might just use Tarja, which is sort of industry, used like an industry. The movie files tend to be can be a little bit unstable in terms of where they will and won't play. So we'll export a Tarja image sequence. This is our naming prefix. So at the moment we can't set any of the start and end frames because it's just going to render a single frame. And what we want to do is change it to name underscore number dot extension. So that's our name with an underscore with the number of the frame, which we can obviously locate down here, and the dot extension, which in this case is TGA, which is Tarja. From down there we can set our end frame. So our start frame is 1, our end frame is 385, and we can see this down here in this section. Okay, so we can type 385 there, 0.0, and we can set our camera that we render from, in this case camera 1, or whichever you've named your camera. Now our aspect ratio is really important. So we currently work to 16 by 9. Old TVs were 4 by 3. That's 4 pixels across the top for every 3 down. 16 by 9 again is 16 pixels across for every 9 pixels down. So that gives us our HD. Now what I really like about this is if we go to camera 1, as I change, so if we just hide that, as I change the cameras, you can see the field of view that comes into question changes that aspect ratio. Okay, so it changes what that camera will look like. So again, what we want to work towards, we can do A4. So if you're trying to do a printout for your character, you could get A4. It's really useful tool. Okay, but we're going to work with HD 1080, and obviously we have 72 pixels on the resolution, pixels an inch. So once that's set, we just need to change where we are saving to. So if we go to edit, change project image directory, what I would like you to do is on your desktop, especially if you're using a college computer, is to set the folder to the desktop. If you're working at home with your own download, set it in images. Okay, this will be found in your documents, Maya, projects, whatever your project is or whatever your save is, which probably will be default at the moment, and then you can go into images and save there. For those of you using college computers, go to your desktop, create a new folder, and save it into that. So I'm just going to create a new one here. I'm just going to go Buddy 360, and I'm going to select, so we don't open the folder, we select it. Once that's selected, we can click accept, and you can see on images there it's going to save it. Let's put into Buddy 360. Click accept, and we're doing HD 1080, which is 1920 by 1080 pixels, which is full HD. And we're going to go to we need to render, batch render. Okay, we don't want to render one frame. So if we go down to the rendering menu set and go to render and go down to batch render, you will see first it will ask us to save, and you will see that it's going to render with my software. Now in a second it's going to process the lights, calculate the things, and it's going to make the images, and you'll see very shortly that this will start running at a really fast speed, because we have very little assets, very few assets within the scene. Okay, and we're using the default software renderer. So we'll come to Premiere Pro in a second. I just want you to be able to see this rendering. So again, there we go, and you can see that percentage flying up there now. So while that's doing that, we're going to go to Premiere and we're going to set up our project. So we're going to go File, New, Project, and we can change this to Buddy or your character's name 360 View. You can choose where to save it. Make sure you're on HDV and click OK. And then once we're here, it should, because we've got Maya running, it's sort of absorbing all of the processing power to do this, so we'll just give it a minute. What frame are we on? We're on frame 43. So I'm just going to go ahead and pause this, and then once it's done we will continue. Okay, so that's now still going off there, but obviously Premiere's loaded. So in this section we'll end up with our timeline here, our preview here. We can edit sections, it will appear with the sound and the source clips, and obviously we can maintain our assets down here. The first step is to create a sequence. So we go to new item and we go to sequence. This will allow us to set timeline, etc. So obviously I've already used these settings before, but if you go down to HDV and go to HDV 1080p and 25, okay, and click OK, and we can just call this Buddy 360 version 01, because you may have multiple sequences where you're testing out different ideas and different edits. On this then we have our video channels going in order, so the highest one will always be seen over the others if you're compositing, and you'll see we have our audio channels here. So if you do want to import audio and things in, you can. So for this we can go to import new item and we can create a title, and we'll just call this title. And what we need to do on this section is to just put your name. So in this case it will be Adam Weaver, and then obviously your student number, character name, and if it's a hero or villain, or before group A, I think I spelled that wrong, haven't I? So before, did I spell that right? Oh, my brain's actually just going a bit nuts there. Or before group A, go mad A, anti-hero. Okay, yeah, so villain, right. I actually can't spell that. Yeah, I can't tell which one's right and which one's wrong. So we'll just go with that for now. In fact, actually it's A-I-N. We'll go with that. Right. So hero, villain, or anti-hero. Okay, so you can centrally align that. You can change the text, type of text up here. You can change the width between the letters, either size. You can change the width between the letters. You know, you can do a whole variety of things. You can change the colour down here. Okay, so I'm going to go with orange because obviously that's the colour of my character. And you can obviously slant these. You know, you can do all sorts of editing within this. So please feel free to experiment. And I want you to place that at the beginning of your timeline, so it'll appear here. Okay, and you can see it's much more detailed than what was in the preview. So if we just go to Maya, see how many more we've got. So we're about to 188. So we've still got a small while to go. So while we're waiting for that, I'm not going to import any music because I don't have anything that's copyright free at the moment. But what I'm going to do is just pause the video again, and once that's complete we will come back. Okay, so that's now complete. As you can see at the bottom here it says rendering complete, which means we can go back into Premiere Pro. So we're going to import our new item, and this time we're going to go to sorry, not new item, we're going to go to import, not import new item, import. And I'm going to find my folder. So if I go to, if it's on desktop, you can find it yourself. I'm going to go to documents, go down to Maya, go down to 20, no, go to projects. I think it's in Yeoman Bouncing Ball. Go to images and Buddy 360. Have my TGA sequence, Taja. So now if I select one image, okay, by default this box will not be selected, and if I import that, it will import a singular image, and it will literally just be that for 5 seconds. If I push play over here, you can see it does nothing. That's because it hasn't imported the sequence. So if I delete that, so if I select it, push delete, and I'll go to import, and this time select that and click select image sequence, it will import every single number. And this is where it is important that you don't add numbers to the end of words, because it can change the order that these run in. So please make sure you always use the underscore. Click open, and we can see now we have our turnaround. If we just scan pan left and right, we'll see that move. So if we bring this in and we play through, so we've obviously got our title there, we can see whose it is, and we can see that's now turning around. So the reason that it's glitching like this is because, again, it's trying to calculate the preview, and you see this yellow bar, we need to turn that to green. So if we go to clip, I think if I remember correctly, okay, so if we go to sequence, so it's changed in this version, and select render into out, and you'll see now that it's going to start to render that here, which will give us a demonstration of that. So yeah, as you say, once you start working with HD, that, and obviously got several big programs open, including Maya, it will slow down. But yeah, it still looks pretty cool. I'm going to add other features to this as well. Just what's happening is I'm going to add some other features, add some ears, get some hair in. I'm going to tidy up the face around here, and on the lips I'm going to take those inside on the corners because it's looking really weird from this point. I may make the hands bigger as well, but we'll see about that. And obviously tidy up the neck area again, and obviously that little bit of a crease in the forehead there. So this is almost done now, and when this is done, hopefully we will see a really nice turnaround. So let's take it back here with no bugs, well, no glitching. That's looking really cool. Excellent. So I'm really happy with that. So at this point, if I want to export the video ready to submit, we can go to File, Export, Media. Okay, so that's File, Export and Media. So there we go. So in this section, what we want to look for is the H.264 compressor. Okay, and we can go to, you can use Blu-ray, but I mean, again, if we stick with the H.264, it will render out, because we're doing this for PCs. And what we want is, there's obviously a lot of settings here, is to find our HD 1080p 25 frames per second. We can change where we save this to. So if it's going to my desktop, we've got the name there. Can you put your own name at the beginning of this file as well? So when I open it, or when it's downloaded, I know whose it is. Okay, we just want to go down, make sure we've got the same pixel rate that we've rendered out from MyRim, which we have, same frame rate. So it's looking fine. So export video, export audio, make sure they're checked, absolutely. And we want to use maximum render quality, so turn that on as well. And the reason we use the H.264 is it compresses that information at 78 megabytes. If this was a larger file, not a larger file, sorry, using like QuickTime or AVI, we end up with really large files. We're talking hundreds of megabytes, even gigabytes. So this compressor is why we're rendering this out through Premiere and not Maya. So we can click export, and it will export, and that's taking a good amount of time. And then obviously on my desktop, that will then appear as an MP4. So again, I'm just going to go back to this and just go File, Save As. So I'm going to close this down as well. So that's 12 for render. Click Save As. And all I'm going to do now is just show you the final video once this is complete. It's almost there. And if we go to the desktop, and you'll see that's down here, and obviously if we pull that forward, we can now see that full render of the character. Okay, so can we make sure that we are getting that out and ready for submission? Any questions, obviously just get into contact with me, and we'll go from there. Until then, good luck.